In the mid-2000s, a woman named Claire lived alone in an old, creaky house on the outskirts of a small town in the Pacific Northwest. Claire had recently inherited the house from her grandmother, who had passed away under mysterious circumstances. The locals whispered that the house was cursed, but Claire dismissed these as mere superstitions. One night, as Claire was settling into bed, she heard faint whispers coming from the basement. At first she thought it was her imagination, but the whispers grew louder and more distinct. Intrigued and a bit frightened, Claire grabbed a flashlight and descended the narrow wooden stairs to the basement. The basement was cold and damp, filled with old furniture and boxes of forgotten belongings. The whispers seemed to come from the far corner behind an old dust-covered mirror that was leaning against the wall. As Claire approached, she noticed that the mirror was not just reflecting her image, it was reflecting a different room entirely. Gathering her courage, Claire touched the mirror and felt a cold, otherworldly sensation. Suddenly, she was pulled through the mirror into a dark, decrepit version of her house. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the whispers were now loud and clear, echoing off the walls. Terrified, Claire tried to return through the mirror, but it was now a solid wall. As she explored the twisted version of her home, she encountered shadowy figures that seemed to be trapped in this alternate dimension. They warned her of a malevolent entity that had claimed this place and would soon come for her. Desperate to escape, Claire found an old diary belonging to her grandmother, hidden in a secret compartment in the study. The diary revealed that her grandmother had been aware of the dark entity and had been trying to find a way to seal it permanently. In her last entry, she wrote about a ritual that could banish the entity, but at a great personal cost. With no other option, Claire decided to perform the ritual. As she recited the incantations, the house shook violently, and the entity appeared. A horrifying, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. It lunged at Claire, but just as it was about to reach her, the ritual took effect. The entity let out a deafening scream as it was pulled back into the darkness, and the house began to crumble around her. Claire awoke in her own bed, drenched in sweat. She rushed to the basement and found the mirror shattered into pieces. The whispers were gone, and the house felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Claire knew she had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, and vowed never to speak of that night again. Years later, Claire moved away, but the house remained. Locals still tell stories of strange occurrences, and the eerie feeling that lingers around the old property. Some say they can still hear faint whispers if they listen closely enough.